All right. All right, everybody. Hey, we are back with our first speaker here in room one. And I'm excited about this topic because I have, honestly, true story, I have never done a collateral assignment. So I'm looking to learn from the guy who does this all the time with his business, been around for a while, one of the great people in the note business. You may know him in a lot of seconds, but he's an overall amazing real estate investor, very good, easy to pivot, does a lot of great stuff out there. Our buddy Fuquan Bilal from the NNG Capital Fund. And we are excited this morning, Fuquan. Thanks for joining us early from the coast, buddy.
No problem, no problem. Thanks for having me, man. I was saying that I like the concept of being able to do this from the comfort of your own home. I'm in a home office. Actually, today marks the birthday of NNG. It's been 6 years since I've started the company. So 5 years while you're in business, so we're over that hump. So I'm pretty excited about that. So
congratulations, buddy. Congratulations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my video on my, and then I'm going to mute myself. So as you get in, we may field some questions. If they're relevant where you're at, I'll jump in. If not, we'll save them to the very end. But I'm going to let you get rock and rolling, bro. All right?
No problem. Appreciate it. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out to attend this session. I know it's early in the morning, so I gotta actually start off with my morning song. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. All right. So once again, I was just sharing with everybody it's NNG's 6th birthday. The company has been in business for 6 years now. In 2011, I actually learned the concept of note investing after trying to turn my business around from the crash and learning new things to get into. Because the real estate that I was doing at the time really wasn't nothing happening. There was still a few players doing some transactions, but it was really tough. So, networking and being in the right environment, I discovered the note business in 2011. And then I had to do some deals on my own because the investors that I was involved with around that time, they didn't understand the concept of the paper. And I would watch webinars, I would go to different events and hear different people speak. And, I grabbed the concept right away and I was like, how do I get started in this? So I had to take some of my own capital, like most of you who was on this call, and I had to go over the hill and get the arrows in my back, as they say. So once I was able to develop some case studies and build some processes, I was able to go back to investors and say, hey, listen, this is a great concept. Here's some case studies of, how I navigated through this, trials and tribulations, and here are the processes I built. And I believe with, the right amount of capital, I can take this to the next level. So in 2012, I created NNG and still, struggled through the first year, building the processes, going through that, setting up the company, setting up staff, keeping that vision in mind that this was definitely going to happen. There was a talk I just did about belief, action, and basically having that vision and moving forward with it. And you're going to have some fears and some challenges, but still push yourself through it to get to the ultimate vision that you see, right? You have to see it first. You have to believe it first, and then you will see it realized. So, during that process, we created a vehicle to give opportunities to investors to partner with us to go ahead and take down these assets. And then the next level was trying to figure out the exit strategies. And I'll talk today about one of the exit strategies that we use a lot, which is the collateral assignment. So it's a way you can leverage first or seconds. A lot of you guys may know me from being in the seconds. I do first as well. I started off with seconds because it was a way for me to diversify, get assets at a cheaper price to kind of learn a little faster, right? Back then, I put $100,000 my own money. I was able to get 10 assets, and I was able to work through fairly quickly those assets and get great returns because pricing was cheaper then. And that helped me understand the business more, underwriting the second, understanding the borrower, looking at the collateral, underwriting the collateral, and going from there. And then once I was able to create, mastery, which we're still doing today because you never know enough, right? Once I was able to create that in the space, I was able to transition into first and really understand it. And my reasons for starting off in seconds was because I wanted to get the payment. I didn't want to get the property. I didn't want to have a portfolio full with REOs. And as I went further into business and understood it, once I got into first mortgages, I'm like, okay, if I did take the property back, I can still be the bank, find local boots on the ground, and finance the deal to the local boots on the ground and carry, sell a carryback or whatever other strategies that you can use. And it became exciting. what we started to do is we started to notice that there were some investors who get into the note business and they go either in one direction. If they're a passive investor, they want to buy something that already have cash flow while they're trying to learn and understand. So if they're going to put capital out, they want it to generate income. So they buy performing notes and they're looking for a certain yield. So the other road that investors go down, if they want higher yields, they will buy non-performing assets, which are first or seconds. And basically what they would do is if they're investing in non-performing, they're looking for a higher yield. There's a lot of work that goes involved with it, managing the servicer, managing the asset manager, managing your power team, which we'll get into. But that's typically, a higher yield, but it's more work. So for the passive people, when I would meet them at these conventions and through my travels, I would ask them when I met them, what type of yields are you looking for? And I would collect that data on the back of my business card. So when I would say, this is the average yield the investors are looking for, I'm going to utilize the collateral assignment strategy. I'm going to go back out to those investors who wanted a 10 yield, a 9 yield, an 8 yield, and I'm going to try to find a product that matched them. This will give you the opportunity to leverage that performing asset, right? So there's some people doing the non-performing space too. I would say if you're an investor, going onto one of these collateral assignments to try to fund it, start off with the performing asset. It's better. It's more, I don't want to use the word safe because things can still happen while it's performing, but at least you got consistent payments that are coming in versus investing in something that's non-performing and collateralizing that. That is a space in the area, but I would definitely say if you're looking to invest into one of these instruments, start off with doing something that's performing. So quick disclosure, this presentation is for educational information only. Nothing in this presentation should be construed as legal advice. Basically, we're not basically engaging in rendering any legal accounting advice. If you want that advice, you have to seek the professionals. This is not a public offering or fundraising event. Okay, good. Then all my checks for my SEC attorney. All right. So just a little bit of background about me. And I'll just go through this. I've been involved in real estate for 18 years now. I started, fix and flips and everything in the year 99, all the way to the market crash. And as I explained earlier, I transitioned into notes. I had the opportunity to launch 3 successful funds, just primarily investing in notes. And today I have a hybrid model where I have rental properties, I do some fix and flips, and I do notes. So that's a term that we actually trademark, hybrid diversified real estate investing. And I believe with the shift in the way the market is going with pricing and competitive pricing in the note business, this gives me an opportunity to capitalize on whatever opportunity that's out there, whether it's in real property or whether it's in notes. So, just keep that in mind as the market's interest rates increase and things happen and everybody's waiting for a super crash or the next crash. As long as you have diversity and alternative assets and you have specific in what you're doing, you can actually create some type of buffer or hedge against the market. So I know there's a lot of new people on the call, and I know that there are experienced people on the call. So I want to make sure I'm able to touch on both. So, for those of you who have been in the space, I know you know what a note is. I know you know what a mortgage is, but I'm just going to break it down for the new people who's in so I can make sure I touch everybody. So what is a note? So a note is an IOU, is cash flow, is a series of payments, and is freedom, right? So basically it gives you the ability to invest in something that is going to set you up and give you passive and active income, and is secured by a mortgage, right? So the documents securing your investment is the promissory note. When you go to the closing, when the borrower goes to a closing, they get institutional financing. There's 2 instruments that sign at the closing. One is a note and one is a mortgage. 2 separate instruments, right? The note, basically, when you buy it from a note seller, there's an allonge that assigns the rights of the notes to you. And then there's an assignment of the mortgage that assigns the deed of trust or the mortgage over to you. So these are things that give you security in your investment, right? Also, if you're buying first or second, you're going to be added as an additional insured on the policy. So if the house burned down, you're covered. So you get into this business, you buy a performing asset, you have the security and the language that's in the note that's endorsed over to you, and the mortgage, which the borrower signed as collateral. So if they don't make the payment, you have the right to take the property back. That instrument is assigned to you also. So if you have to execute, let's say you have to go through foreclosure, you're going to use that mortgage or deed of trust instrument to go down the foreclosure path. If you're suing on the note, you're going to use the other instrument, which is the note, because they sign an obligation to pay, and you're going to sue on the note and try to get a judgment against that current asset and all assets, just depending on the health of the borrower. So there's two different routes you can go when you're going legal. A lot of times in the judicial states, we would prefer to sue on the note because it's faster, it's cheaper, and we can bring the bar to the table right away to start the negotiation process, right? So a lot of people get in the space and they think as easy as baking a pie or whatever the term is, and they start to incur all these legal costs because they're foreclosing, and then they figure out, wow, I only want to buy in non-judicial states because it's cheaper and it's faster and it's less money. The banks lend everywhere, and if you're going to be a bank, you have to put your banker cap on, and you have to learn how to navigate in every state, especially if it's profitable, right? If you buy a judicial loan and it has equity, whether you're in first or second, you may have to wait 1.5 years, 2 years, but so what? This is a long-term investment strategy. Say it with me. Long-term investment strategy. This is not, you're going to get in 1 year, you're going to make 40% returns. It takes time, right? It takes time. You can't build a house without the foundation. So you have to go through these processes and understand it. And, eventually you will be able to reap the benefits. So we went over these documents. I'll just go through these real quick. This is the instrument just to show you a visual if you're new. So the note had terms. It had the amount the borrower took from the bank. It also has the date the note started, and is going to also have the maturity date, the date the note ends. So when it is assigned to you, you're going to get a document that's called an allonge, and usually there's a stamp on the note, or there's a separate document endorsing the note over to you and giving you the right to own this note, right? So here's an allonge from Auckland Bank, basically to another entity, and then over to my entity. So the deed of trust is that assignment that's going to come over to you of the collateral, which can be assignment of the mortgage or the assignment of deed of trust. That gives you the ownership of the collateral, the rights to collect on the collateral and execute foreclosure, if you have to. So these documents are very important when you're looking to leverage your asset and find a lender that's going to fund you on your performing loan, right? So that's an assignment of a deed of trust, giving me ownership of the note. So when you actually approach a lender and you find out what's the yield that they're comfortable with making, and you want to get a collateral assignment, you have to have your collateral intact, because that gives the lender some security that if you default, that you have the clean title, that if they have to take control of the note and have this as an asset now to them, because that is what the language in the collateral assignment does. It gives the lender the right, if you default, to take the collateral. The same way if they lent you money on a property, right? So the power team is very important, and I kind of want to touch on that for a minute. Let's say you are a lender and you're going to lend to someone that has a collateral assignment. You want to make sure that you have your power team in place. So if you have to go down a foreclosure route, or if the borrower default and you have to take over this note, that you're fully prepared. And this is whether you're doing collateral assignments or you're looking at buying performers or non-performers. A lot of people think because they're buying a performing loan and it's paying monthly payments every month, that it's going to perform like that for the next 20, 30 years. And that's not true. We've seen borrowers default, after 2 years of making payments on time. You have to remember there's a human being, right, in these homes, and real life situations happen. People lose their jobs, they get sick, divorce, anything can happen that can actually create a default. So you want to make sure before you pull the trigger and you invest into this space that you create your power team. Now, a lot of these people you can meet at events. There's a lot of events every year where you have vendors there, such as attorneys, asset managers, realtors in different areas, loan servicers. So you want to create relationships with these people, and then you want to vet them out. You want to ask other investors that are in this space, how are they being treated by these vendors? And that way you can keep a tally of, what you're hearing from the street on how these vendors are performing. If it's a servicer and they don't have clear communication and they work from the top down, you want to find a smaller boutique servicer where you can have communication with, right? Realtors, there's plenty of realtors in this space. So every time I'm at an event, if I have a realtor that's looking new to get in the business and they don't understand it, I make sure I get their card. I make sure I communicate with them and I add them to my list. I give them to my asset manager because that's somebody that I got the opportunity to press the flesh with, explain to them my business and try to add value to them. Maybe they can do a BPO. Maybe they have some information on that area where I went to invest. So they're very, very useful. And I see a lot of people just brush realtors off at these events, but they're part of your power team. You know, asset manager is key as well. There's people in this industry that this is all they do. You know, this is their bread and butter. They manage the asset for you. And the asset manager role pretty much is handling the servicer, the realtor, private investigator, and attorney. They do similar things that the servicer do, but they're not, you know, a servicer. They don't collect payments. They don't do any of that. They just manage the assets. So you can essentially buy some assets, find somebody to help you manage the process and report into you. They'll be like your SPOC, your single point of contact that you will find in a loan servicer. Private investigators, you can use companies like NCCI. We utilize them. They're licensed debt collectors. They will go to the house and knock on the door and basically, you know, talk to the homeowner or try to do some type of warm transfer to get the homeowner on the phone with the servicer or asset manager to figure out what's going on. The attorney is the last one in the power team, is really, really important because the attorney will basically bring the borrower to the table. Now, I just want to mention this about attorneys, not diving in too deep. You want to make sure you find an attorney that have a flat rate service. One of the biggest mistakes I made earlier on is creating relationships with attorneys that bill you hourly. And I just got, you know, killed in legal fees. You know, I wanted to see, you know, the type of reaction I would get if I took 150 loans to foreclosure. So we strategically set up the process where we had the loans onboarded with the servicer. We had the attorneys in every state. They fired off the demand letters. You know, the servicer had the mail campaign going out. We had private investigators going out to really try to rattle and shake the tree to see what falls and how many borrowers will respond and work stuff out. And the mistake that I made was just dealing with attorneys that bill you hourly for every email, every phone call. They can be, you know, very vital to what you're trying to do, but they can also, you know, create an expense for you that can hurt you. So you want to really try to put your plan in place when you're dealing with these attorneys and let them know up front, hey, what I'm really trying to do is just bring the borrower to the table. You know, our model is if we foreclose, we fail. We want the payment. We don't want the property. Now, again, that's, you know, my model, and that goes along with the core values of my company. You might have something completely different. You might be a local real estate investor who want to get involved in notes to get the property. If that's your goal, then that's your goal. You explain that to the attorney. But you still want to be mindful of the attorney and basically let them know that, you know, your goal is not to incur a bunch of legal expenses. So, you know, with that in mind, you want to kind of find an attorney that have a, you know, flat fee in their attorney fees. And once you do that, you set that up and then you could begin your campaign. All right. So let's talk about hypothecation, which is leveraging your collateral assignments. So again, once you have the collateral intact, you can actually go to a lender and borrow, you know, a percentage of the principal balance from a lender or an investor, right? And I have some examples here that I'll show you of a note you can buy, you know, what it will cost you. And this is an example of a second mortgage, by the way, and how you can leverage it and the returns you can make. So just to put it in layman's terms, if you have a note that you purchase off of a discount, you can then go and once you perform that note and borrow against the note, and whatever yield you were making, of course, the yield to your investor is going to be lower. So you're still creating what they call an arbitrage. So let's just say if the borrower was making a payment of, you know, $400 a month, and you created an interest rate with the lender from giving you, you know, 20, 30, 50,000, whatever it is on your note, and that payment to the lender, let's say is $250, you're still paying you're still earning $150 a month in addition to the money that you gave them. So usually these things run for a term. You know, a term can run for at least 2 years, 3 years, whatever way you structure, right? That's the beauty of the instrument collateral assignment. When you leverage your note, you can create the terms and negotiate with your lender It can be 5 years, it can be 2 years. It all depends on what is your exit strategy. You want to make sure you share with the lender what is the exit strategy, how you're going to pay them back, and how their money is secured. So, basically the note owner becomes the borrower and the investor becomes the lender, right? So the note holder retains ownership, and basically it's different from a partial. So I know you guys are familiar with the partial, where you sell off future payments and at the end you get it back. If the borrower defaults in that situation, I'm sure you guys been to conferences and people teach on partials where you have special language in there where it's a unilateral contract and you can get it back and work it out. That's great, and that's a great strategy. The easier and cleanest process for me is the collateral assignment, because I can actually borrow against the note, keep ownership of the note, and basically what I'm saying is that I'm going to make the payment whether the borrower defaults or not, right? So I'm responsible for the payment whether the borrower defaults or not. And with that, you're just using a note for collateral. So with the partial, usually it's the servicer getting a direction letter where the payments are going to go to the new owner, and you have to assign the mortgage over to the new owner. And basically, the owner had the rights of that notes for 10 years, 5 years, whatever the partial is for. Where collateral assignment is basically saying, here is the instrument, it's performing, and here's the collateral, everything is intact. And here's some information on the borrower, showing the strength of the borrower and they're able to make the payments. And then a lender will make the decision based off of that, and based off of the collateral, they'll lend you a percentage of the UPB based off of whatever yield that payment is going to derive. So that's essentially what hypothecation is, and you're leveraging the note. You need to make sure that you have all of these documents to put in front of the lender. This is basics. You can actually add more. Maybe the lender may want some servicing notes to kind of see the communication that was with the borrower. You can go above and beyond, but this is the basics. You need the original note, the allonges, which are the documents that I showed you earlier, the assignments to prove ownership, and then that collateral assignment instrument. Now, for educational purposes only, once we finish this session, you can email me and you can actually get a copy of the collateral assignment. And it's for educational information only. You might want to give it to your attorney, go through it and everything else, but I will provide that to you if you don't have it. And it's for free. Nothing is for sale. I don't have anything at the end of the presentation, just adding value to you guys. So the collateral assignment is another instrument that you're going to give to the lender. And basically you'll put whatever terms that you discuss with the lender, the rate, the length of years, the amount of money that's being lent on the asset. And then to spell out some other things. If you default, this is what happened. This is the rights the lender have. These are the rights the note owner have. All that language is in there. You also want to give them pay history to kind of show them, this loan has been performing. Maybe there's a third party servicing records, right? I highly recommend, if you're lending on collateral assignments, if you are a lender and you want to be passive and you want to ride the coattail of someone else's success and lend on, performing asset they have, get third party servicing records. There's a lot of people self-servicing and they have canceled checks and all that other stuff. And you really can't tell if it's performing or if it's something that, is not accurate. So third-party servicing records is a way to show there's a third-party vendor that's collecting these payments. Here's the pay history from that third-party vendor. Here's the current payoff from that third-party vendor. Here's servicing notes from that third-party vendor. And basically, that's pretty much it from third-party vendor. You also, if you are the borrower or if you are the lender, you want to see the workout agreement that the note holder created, the terms that's in that workout agreement, right? Usually it will come also with the current credit report to show the current health of the borrower, how they're paying other bills, if they're paying their first mortgage on time, or if they're paying their car note on time. If it's a first mortgage, are they being responsible with other debt that they have, right? And then, of course, last but not least is the subject property. Some of you might want to look at that first and say, what is the collateral, the physical real property behind this? Let me see what's worth it. In whichever order you want to go, these are the 5 basic things that you can look at. I know there's probably other people on the call that may can add to this, but these are the basic things that have made our lenders feel comfortable to lend on our performing assets. So, we tried putting assets out for sale performing, and we saw that when we sold those, especially in today's market, it's definitely a seller's market. We see stuff trading at par at a 10 yield or 8 yield, just depending on the equity and the term that you give. But average is 10 to 12 with seconds and first a little lower. But basically what we notice is that we can actually make it more profitable if we just borrow against the asset and create an arbitrage. And then after that term, maybe we sell that asset and then still capitalize off of it because we pay the lender back and still make a profit. But then that short 2-year term, let's say we hypothecated 5 assets and was able to generate $250,000, we can then take that money and buy more notes and replicate the process. So it kind of takes it to the next level. And actually, one of the things that made me fall in love with this business was understanding the partial concept. When I first learned about notes and I heard that concept, I was just like, wow, I always tell a story. I saw my mom one day and she, I went through the divorce and everything else, and she just saw this glow and she was like, you found it. And I was like, yes, notes. Because I was so excited. I'm still so excited to the day. My heart is on fire about the different things that you can do within this space. Being in the bank has taught me so much and made me so passionate about being in this business, being able to give the homeowners a reprieve, being able to create, essentially a legacy for me and my family from investing in paper. So being able to take my business and 10x it to the next level, collateral assignments is one of those instruments that we use, almost like an exit strategy, really to leverage it, buy more notes, and kind of repeat the process. If you don't have like a fund or raising capital, this is another great way to allow you to raise capital for your notes. There's a lot of people in the first mortgage space. When I sell first mortgages, there's a lot of joint venture activity that's going on there. And if you have first mortgages that you purchase and you perform, and now you're low on capital, this is a great, great way for you to get involved and really understand this concept to leverage your performing assets and go out where you don't have to have any joint venture opportunities, and you can still navigate in the space, or you can leverage your notes to have more money for legal work, so you can bring those other non-performing assets into performing, right? So benefits to the note holder. At some future date and time, you can free up cash. You have a valuable asset that can be hypothecated or used to collateralize a loan. So we talked about the arbitrage, and in most cases is a deferred tax incentive. So, you definitely want to get with your accountant to look into that. And the benefits to investor is, a lot of these events that I go to, like I mentioned in the beginning, there are some people who just want to be passive. They may not want to go into a fund, but they want some type of passive opportunity. And I meet so many people at these conferences, and just, the places I put myself in, even if it's not a real estate conference, other events that I go to with people who's thinking about turbocharging their retirement, whether I'm at an IRA event or whatever, those people are looking to be passive. So if you can actually show them servicing records of a performance history of some of your notes, it's a benefit to them to ride your coattail and lend against that performing asset, right? Into something that's secured. So, we hypothecate secured assets. We have unsecured debt that's performing also. I wouldn't, say hypothecate that, even though you can, but there's really no security for the lender. That's a little bit too, in another area. So focus on secured first or second mortgages, the benefit to the investor. There's a lot of benefits. Within this collateral assignment, there could be terms that says, hey, what if you default and you don't pay? The options we give our lenders is that, hey, we can actually swap you to another note. If the borrower defaults, I'm still going to make the payment. But if they go 60 days or more and they don't pay, and I have to go back into the process, because you can't foreclose until it's 120 days late, with new rules and stuff in place. But if I see the delinquency snowballing, I'm going to reach out to that investor and say, hey, listen, I'm still making the monthly payments, but I just want to keep you abreast of what's going on. This borrower hasn't made a payment in 60 days. So what I'm going to do is take this collateral assignment and transfer it over to another asset while I get this one back on track. So you definitely want to be transparent with your lender, and you want to let them know what's going on with the note. don't just do a collateral assignment, take the money and don't speak to the lender again. One of the things that I've learned in this business is keeping constant communication with your lenders on whether they're doing joint ventures with you or you borrowing against an asset, a monthly email or just something, just to reach out to them and keep communication. Because the last thing you want is for the loan to default and you're not being upfront and transparent with your lender. You're not going to have other opportunities if the lender, see that there's some type of foreclosure action coming from the first, if it's a second high qualification, or if it's the first and the borrower is delinquent and you're not being transparent, and you call the lender at 120 days and say, this loan hasn't performed in 120 days, they're not going to be too happy about that. So keeping constant communication with your lender is very important, right? So new investors, the lenders also get what we call a call option. So let me break it down for you. I'm going to create a collateral assignment. I'm going to borrow $30,000, and my terms to the lender can be, okay, I'm going to give you 10% for a 3-year term, whatever it is. Some of you may want 50% returns, whatever. But 10% is our average that we would do, and that's the second, by the way. And basically is a 2 or 3 year term. And the lender has you can put a 60-day call option. And what that means is that at any time, the lender can write you a letter and say, hey, I need my money back in 60 days. I have a family emergency, or I have another opportunity that I want to capitalize on. I'm giving my call option to you now. So you have to be able to find another lender to lend on that note to pay off the other lender, or sell that asset to be able to pay the other lender, or sell other assets to pay the other lender. So before you start doing collateral assignments, you want to make sure that you have liquidity somewhere in your portfolio where if the lender call back and say, hey, I want my money back, you're able to do that. Now we do 60, you can do 120 days, you can do 6 months. The terms are, something that you can negotiate, but you want to give the lender the option not to be stuck in this collateral assignment for 2 years or 3 years. So you want to give them that call option, right? And again, if the borrower default, you want to be able to have that option in your collateral assignment that you can swap them. Or if the borrower refinances and pay off the loan, you can have a term in there that says, hey, if this loan refinance and the loan gets paid off, instead of paying you back, I'm going to switch you to another note and keep the term in place. We're in a year already. We're going to continue where we left off with, and the maturity date of this collateral assignment is still going to be the same. So you can put those options in your collateral assignment. If you refi and you get a payoff, you have to pay the lender, but you want to make sure that you have those options to let the lender know, I'm going to reach out to you, be transparent, but I want to have that option to be able to push it along to another note. And if the lender agreed to that and they sign a collateral assignment, then you're good to go. The last thing you want to do is get a refinance and a payoff and use the money for something else, and then the lender is not secured. So you definitely want to make sure you're transparent with the lender. So let me give you an example. Enough talking. Let's show some examples. All right, so let's just say here's a situation. Here's a second mortgage. The fair market value is $317,000, and the first mortgage is $269,000. So there's some equity there. It's just enough a little bit to cover the UPB basically, and the payoff, which is the arrears and the unpaid balance, is $61,500. Right. So let's say you purchase this note for $21,000 and you have servicing fees, and basically your total investment now is almost $22,000, right? The loan is performing and the borrower is making principal payments of $300 a month for 205 months. So one of the things before I move forward is what I've learned in this space is to be able to create workouts with two different scenarios, right? Some of the workouts, especially in seconds, the balance that they owe is too big, where you really can't carry it out, too long to recapture all of the debt. So sometimes you have to set payments with no interest. And I know some of you are like, oh my God, no interest, what's going on? You want to share your discount with the borrower, right? They say pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So you want to be able to, if you're buying at a discount, you want to share a discount with the borrower. And sometimes that may require you to put a payment plan in place where there's principal payments only. A lot of the borrowers that we do that with, they love that scenario, right? They love that, they can just make a payment and the principal is going down every single month. And it could be a situation where you're still making 100% return on a note, after the term is over. So you want to add value to the borrower. So I just want to talk about that real quick. So right now we're making a 15% return on this note at, $22,000 or whatever the cost is, right? Now we're going to maximize this return. I'm going to go to an investor. There's about $48,000 equity, a little bit less than UPB, and I'm going to borrow from the investor $20,000, and I'm going to pay the investor, 10% or 12%, whatever. I'm going to give them a 60-day call option with a 2-year term. So let's say it was just 10%. I would be paying an investor, $167 a month. The payment from the borrower is $300 a month, right? Let's just average it out. Might not be exact. So after I get the 20,000 back, I'm earning, first of all, this made payments for 1 year. I believe I said this where I collected, season payments for 6 months. So I collected 6 months already. Once I add in the 6 months I collected, and then I borrowed $20,000 against it, essentially in this note for $31, right? So this is leveraging. Now I'm paying the investor $167 a month, and I'm earning on an arbitrage $133 a month, right? So while the borrower is making a payment, I'm now earning an extra $133 a month for whatever term. And after the term, maybe there's a strategy for me to sell the note. Maybe the borrower may refinance or whatever it is, and then I can actually pay that investor back or swap into another note or something like that. All right, so exit strategy. So we have a couple of exit strategies. The borrower may create a discounted loan payoff. The borrower, if it goes non-performing, the borrower can reinstate. So if you lend on something in default, you may get a reinstatement from the borrower, which will create another payment plan. If the borrower refinance, you get sometimes what's called a kicker if you have equity, basically above the principal balance, or you get the loan paid off. The borrowers may go into some sort of seller assistant, and if they really truly can't afford it, you will be able to get a deed in lieu or foreclose on the property and take it back and sell it as an REO. So these are some of the exit strategies within the note space, and this works for performing assets that go non-performing. And if you have non-performers, these are definitely some of the exit strategies while you're working the loan. So the hybrid transaction, let's talk about that. Earlier, I touched on when I first got into the space, I started with seconds, then I navigated to first. And, my challenges was, having a portfolio full of REOs. But what I've learned is thinking with a hybrid mindset, being a bank, if I foreclose, I can take it and I can invest to, I can have local boots on the ground, create a note situation and finance it to them. Now I have this seller carryback, or I have, some type of performing instrument, and I can then take that and I can hypothecate it. So I have a note that's non-performing, I foreclose on it, I give to local boots on the ground, I create a note in the mortgage for those guys, I season it, and then I go out and I hypothecate that, and I keep the whole process going. So you can do this from a performing note and from a non-performing note that you take back in foreclosure. The key point that I'm trying to drive here that I don't see a lot of people in this space that have performing notes is leveraging them. That's very, very important because it will give you more access to capital to be able to do more deals, right? So I actually have a site that I created, which, it's more like a podcast and educational site. It's called PFREI, a Passion for Real Estate Investment. And basically, this is something that we just launched. And the whole goal is basically to talk about, areas in real estate, whether it's note investing, income investing from rental properties or fix and flips. So we'll have a lot of different speakers on and guests come on and share their experience about being in this space and talking about, how they're leveraging their assets, whether they're selling partials, collateral assignments, or whatever it is they're doing. I wanted to create this to give back to the community. Before this, I had a site, NNG Note Academy, and that now the URL points to this site because I want to talk a little bit more about real estate and not just so much about notes. When I first got into the note business, I was very narrow-minded coming from real estate, like, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. It's laptop, cell phone, forget the tenants, tallest trash and termites. And what I realized after the first 2-3 years of just notes, and I had already did real estate up until that time, since 99, 2000 coming into space, that there was opportunities that I was passing up on. I was meeting people in the industry, loan servicers, brokers who were selling REOs right in my backyard, and I was just passing them by like, no, notes. And what I realized is when you diversify, if you can handle it, like not everybody can handle it. Not everybody still had the energy to do it. Not everybody still had the processes in place to effectively manage it. But if you can, and you have the processes in place, I definitely recommend now, with the mindset that I'm in and diversifying and creating a hybrid diversified real estate investing. And you will be able to capitalize on whatever opportunities that are out there. So on this site, we have professionals, lawyers, attorneys, SEC attorneys, real estate attorneys, accountants, come on and give tips and tricks and things like that in a business, and kind of tell you how to realistically set up your joint ventures to avoid any SEC issues or whatever. So we have a Facebook page, PFREI, Instagram and Twitter is passion, the number 4 REI. Join us on Instagram, join us on Twitter and Facebook, and you can go to the website www.pfrei.co and register. And basically, anytime there's a new podcast or something released, you'll be updated. But this is the educational hub that I created. I truly believe sharing what you know, like Scott does with a lot of the webinars, that he does on a daily basis, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. I don't know where this guy gets the energy from, but it's so much content that's out there that wasn't available when I first got started. So you guys, if you're just getting involved in a business, there's so much stuff that you have to trust and verify, of course, online. But there's so much content out there that you can grab from and take what you need from it to kind of help you on your journey. And when I got started in the note business back in 2011, there wasn't that much information out there. There was like 1 or 2 people that was known for sharing information. Actually, Scott was one of them, talking about how to smile and dial and call the banks. And I used to watch the videos and watch the YouTube stuff, and I was able to learn. And I wanted to kind of do the same thing and add value to people. So I had, if you put my name, Fuquan Bilal, on YouTube, you'll see me walking through some of my renovations. You'll see me speaking about notes. And just sharing the information kind of helps you grow as well and add value to others. So definitely recommend, joining a lot of groups. There's so many groups out there. And also go to this site and register. I'm going to open it up for questions now. I always like to save time for questions. I think I got maybe 15 minutes left to answer questions. So we'll go from there. Any questions, Scott, on the board?
Sorry, I forgot to hit the unmute key.
No problem. No problem.
You actually have 30 minutes, Fuquan. You got an hour.
Oh, I do. That's awesome. More time for questions.
Exactly. Let's see here. Seth Hayes asked the question, can you employ this hypothecation strategy inside of an SDIRA?
Basically, if you have a performing note, let me understand the question. If you have a qualified account and you want to lend onto a collateral assignment, yes, you can lend on a collateral assignment. And if you own a performing note in your IRA, I believe you can borrow. Yes, you can borrow. As long as it's not it's non-recourse lending, basically. Yeah, so you're going to lend on an asset. So the custodian is going to want to see the note, the mortgage. We have a couple of IRA investors that lend on some of the collateral assignments that we have. So we know definitely if you are investing from your IRA account, you can, and I'm pretty sure you can borrow non-recourse lending, from. So mostly, let me make sure I make this clear. You're not going to walk into an institutional bank and say, I have a first mortgage that I want to do a collateral assignment. They're going to look at you like you had 3 hits, right? The money is going to come from private investors, right? Investors you meet at maybe your local REIA event, maybe at a note event, somebody who just want to be passive, who understands the concept of the note business. They love the alternative asset space. They want to leverage something. They want to put their money to work. So as you're meeting these people, you're taking their business cards. Typically I ask, are you passive or are you active? You passive? Okay, great. What type of yields get you excited? Well, 8%, 10%. Okay, I'm going to write that on the card. I'm going to keep all this data, put it in my CRM. When I have an opportunity, I'm going to reach out to those private investors to try to leverage the asset. So they may have an IRA account. And, I'm going to send over the collateral assignment, the note, the mortgage, everything showing that the asset is secure and everything is intact. And they fill out the documents from the custodian and you get funded on it. So you want to make sure that, if they invested from an IRA, that you reach out to the IRA company and say, hey, listen, do you guys typically do this? What do you need? You don't want to leave it up to the investor to find out from the IRA company. You want to educate yourself and start keeping notes on different IRA companies. What is their process to lend on it? So, whether it's from Quest or Camera or one of the, IRA companies that are out there, NewView is a bunch of them out there that actually understand this market. And from my understanding, actually Quest have a department just dedicated to notes. So I'm sure with those guys, they understand it, but most IRA companies should. A lot of them are opening up now and understanding the note space and basically how to speed up the process and getting the transaction funded. I was actually at an equity trust conference earlier this year, and that was one of the things they were talking about, setting up easier processes to fund on note acquisitions and lending on notes, whether it's trust deed investing or whatever. But yes, it's a long answer, but the answer is yes.
So, Fuquan, can you talk about some of the things? Because I love the fact you and I have the same mentality when it comes to networking and putting together a power team. Because I'm a big believer. Everybody's a buyer, a seller, and a funding source at some point. All right. And you do a great job of reaching out on a regular basis. What are some of the tools? What are you using to communicate with your database? Is it Infusionsoft? Is it MailChimp? What are some of the things that you're using to help you kind of streamline that stuff?
What's Infusionsoft? It's Infusionsoft, and also I use, it's basically Infusionsoft and Excel.
Yeah.
Everything gets dumped into Infusionsoft. I have a bunch of different lists on different events I go to, so I can check the engagement that I have with people, maybe at, Paper Source event, a Note Expo event, whatever event I go
Quest Expo, whatever, right? Yeah.
Exactly, Quest Expo. I kind of keep those lists separate, and I kind of monitor the engagement that I have at these different events to let me know if it's useful for me to attend these events. What percentage of the people I'm meeting are active versus what percentage of the people I'm meeting are passive. And that was one of the reasons that I created PFREI, because in February of 2017, I kind of slowed down, doing the education and mastermind because I wanted to focus on launching a new fund. But I still had so many people when I would go to the events like, oh man, I love what you were doing. Let's try to do classes. And I didn't want to have like an education hat on. I was just organically sharing the information that I had, with people. I don't really want to be labeled as like a note teacher or anything else. I just like to share, things that I've learned organically with other people to help them, get a step up, because that's helped me grow. And it gives me a feeling of importance to know that I helped somebody kind of build something for their family and long-term income to kind of get out of the rat race. So I created PFREI basically to continue to give back. But the systems that I do use is Infusionsoft. I know we use Active. I'm trying out Active Campaign for the REI site to see how that go. It allows you to have different companies that you can send list emails from. So in Infusionsoft, whatever is the main company, every email that goes out has that company in the signature. And I was like, wow. So Active Campaign allows you to market from different companies. So I have, Note Resolutions, which is actually, a sub-servicer. We can send marketing campaigns out to borrowers. I have PFREI on the platform. And then I have something I didn't launch yet, which is my website, fuquanbilal.com, on that platform. So I can essentially market from 3 different companies, and the signature in the email is coming directly from that company, whether it's Infusionsoft. I don't want to confuse people with the different brands. And that's something that you want to be mindful also. It's not like crossing the brands over that people understand what it's about. And that was the reason PFREI was birthed, because I didn't want NNG to be looked at as an educational company, note seller. We are, essentially our focus is raising capital and creating strategic partners to kind of take down these assets, these large tapes or REOs, and kind of build from there.
Good stuff.
Come on, guys, get some questions. Come on.
All right, we got more questions here. Hang on here. Brady Durr asked the question, what are some of the terms you have in your agreement that help address cash flow when the borrower later falls behind 2 months?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to actually do a collateral assignment based just off of the cash flow from that note. Me personally, when I go do a collateral assignment, I have cash flow coming in from, different assets. And let's say, for example, you have 3 performing notes, right? And all these notes are performing on a regular basis, everything going right. So the collateral assignment, once again, is basically saying, Mr. Lender, whether the borrower pay or not, I'm going to pay you. So one of the ways that I know that I can pay is the income that I have from other assets, because essentially I'm responsible for the payment and I'm just borrowing on this asset. So you definitely don't want to just reperform one note and go out and hypothecate it or leverage it, and your payment to the lender is based on that note. Put yourself in a situation as the lender. If you lend somebody money, it's not your fault if the borrower stop paying. Basically, you still expecting that payment every month. Same way if you own a rental property. The bank doesn't care if your tenants are not paying you. You still have to be able to pay the mortgage every month. So that's the same concept that you want to have when you're going out as a note owner to borrow against it. You want to be able to show that lender, you have other performing assets, and I'm just leveraging this one, right? If something go wrong with this one, then this one is also performing. We can do something on this one, right? Or I have 5 notes that's performing. Basically, these are the different yields that I can do, borrowing 50, 20, whatever. Give them a couple of options so they can actually see that it's just not this one note. And if you only have one performing note, wait till you get a couple of performing before you start going out and doing collateral assignments and leveraging them. Because if you default one time and your excuse cannot be, or the borrower didn't pay, unless you have a relationship with the lender and you say, hey, listen, the borrower, if they default and I don't pay you within 60 days, you can take the note. That's another option. If you only have one note and you want to leverage it because you want to go out and try something, then give the lender the option to take over that collateral from you and be able to take that ownership of that note. So you can do it with one note, but you have to be willing to give it up to the lender. The same way if you borrowed money against the property to rehab it or whatever, and you couldn't fix it, you sign a document that the lender can actually take the property away from you. So you can do that option also if you only have one note. You just have to be willing to give it up, and it has to be enough value in there for the lender to see that they can actually liquidate that asset and get their money back.
Now, do you also charge a penalty if somebody needs to get their money out prior to the term being over?
You can basically put in the terms, hey, it's a 120-day call option, or you can do it without a call option. It's a 2-year term. You can redeem your money anytime after 6 months, but if you do, you only get back your principal less the payments you receive. I've seen people do that. If you put up $20,000 and you got $400 a month, and the borrower paid, for 5 months, you're only going to get, $18,000 back or whatever it is. You're not going to get your full $20,000 back because you can treat it whichever way you want. It's not going to be interest. It's going to be principal if you redeem earlier. So you can put penalties. Again, you can negotiate the terms, whatever you want it to be. It could be a 10-year collateral assignment. If you're looking for if someone has money in their IRA and they want to go longer term, and you got a 30-year amortization on this performing note, you can set something up where you can borrow the money for 5 or 10. It's easier for investors who don't understand the concept with the shorter term and with a call option, because now they know they can get their money back. They can get liquidity if they need it for a period of time. And then once you establish a relationship with them and they see your performance is your assurance, then basically you can increase the term or, kind of negotiate terms that would benefit you better.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that I treat my JV agreements like a CD or a annuity that it's 12 to 18 months. After 12 months, there's the call option. If they want to get their money back, they can at a 12% return at 12 months or greater. Just need 90 days to get them refinanced out, find somebody else. If they want it before that 12 month, there's a 25% penalty.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. That's in this, let it stay on longer.
Yeah, it's just it's just, that's if it's non-performing, stuff like that, because you got to think about this, everybody. If you got something and they've agreed to a 12 to 18 month term and suddenly something comes up, what's the bank going to do on a CD or renew? They're going to penalize them heavily, So that's the thing about it. That's important to keep in mind. You've got to take another investor that you would have on another deal and put them into this deal to get them refinanced. And I get other things happen, but this is a business aspect of things. It's important to keep in mind with that too. Hammond asked the question, I didn't hear you address loan constant. Do you have a rule of thumb for spread? I'm not quite sure what he means by that, Hammond.
I'm completely lost.
Well,
English,
Hammond is readdressing that question. You got people on here. Let's see here. Leah Griggs out of Michigan from Facebook says this is brilliant. Brian Williams says thanks for sharing. I learned something new today. Rudy Willis is watching from the beaches of Mexico right now.
I love it.
David Vasquez from Dallas is watching. John Popovich from our Facebook channel. Give him applause. Brady asked the question, can you talk about the staff it requires to execute this business model?
Oh, great question. So, with me, my team is very important. It depends on, what level you are in the business. I started off this business and we raised, money, and I had a staff of 10 people because I, was under the mindset that that's what it took to execute fast. But as I begin to learn more about the business, is outsourcing is the key. So it's not about how many people you have, it's the power team that you set yourself up with. So I have a buddy of mine, he runs a $50 million fund and he has 6 employees, right? And there's bigger companies that have bigger funds and they have 4 employees and they use their vendors effectively. So for me, it took around now we have a staff of 6, and those consist of asset managers because I'm on both sides of the field, real estate and notes. So everybody plays a different role. But specifically for notes, I think we can successfully, scale an operation with 2 or 3 people. Mainly 2. A buddy of mine runs another operation, and just him and his partner. And they outsource everything to vendors. So you want to have an admin person, of course. It's just really finding those vendors, the loan custodian, which I actually didn't have up there on the screen, the loan custodian, the servicer, and basically have somebody manage them and bring back the data, right? So this business is data driven. If you have great systems that you can pull data in from your servicer, from your loan custodian who have your collateral, and they're keeping you updated on what's happening with the cleaning of the title and making sure that's good. Information from realtors, from your attorneys, and you bringing all that data in and you're able to see it from a 30,000 foot view and make decisions based on that. You really don't need a big staff, to run this business. Again, it depends on what's your goals, like, what values do you have in place? Like, are you passive or are you active? If you're active and you're buying non-performers, then you have to have somebody manage the services, stay on top of them, manage the asset managers, and then bring that data to you. So any admin person that you can give training and education to so they can understand the concept, and then you process map, what the service is supposed to do and the steps that goes in once the loan transfer to you and it gets on board with the servicer, the steps that they're taking to take it from non-performing or e-performing, and have somebody constantly follow up on that and bring that data back to you if you're the strategist and you're trying to navigate the way to go. A couple of people, you can, take a couple $1 million and make something happen in this space. You can take $50,000, $100,000 and get started. If you're just getting started with your own capital, you're building those processes out as you're going through the painful steps of understanding the business and going through the challenges with the attorneys, the borrowers, and your process mapping all the way. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I made in the business is, the turnover that we had hiring asset managers and people in the beginning, not processing and documenting those steps to cut down on the training time, not understanding how to effectively outsource. We did a lot of the recording assignments and auditing the documents. All of that was in-house. And now today, we don't do any of that. We use Metasource, which used to be Orion, to do all our collateral. It goes from the seller to the custodian. They audit the file. It gets onboarded with the servicer. We have somebody reviewing the service notes. We brainstorm and strategize the direction we want to take the loans. I run a trade desk. I have my VA basically put assets out for sale. All the data comes in. The VA organizes it for me, and I make a decision on which loans I want to execute the liquidate on, who had the highest bid. So you don't really need a lot of people. You just need to learn how to effectively manage your power team. That's it. But it takes time to get to that level. This business is definitely something that takes time. As I mentioned, we've been doing this for 6 years. So like, I'm not even halfway where I know it could be, and I have so much more to learn. And I've been going to a lot of conferences, not as a vendor. Sometimes you may see me at a conference, not with a booth, but just intermingling in the crowd, finding out from other people the challenges they're going through, how they're overcoming them. No matter what level they're on, I can learn from somebody who don't have a fund or who just have $100,000 invested, they may be able to give me a jewel on some challenges they had, and I can build that into my process. So effectively communicating and networking and, staying around these events will help you build your business and teach you how to outsource where you don't have to have a lot of staff and deal with human resource issues and, everything else. So I'm always trying to figure out a way, on how to outsource and how to make it better, just to be more efficient. And data mining is very important. I've seen some companies spend $100,000, setting up a process where everything gets sent into a system and they can look at it from a 30,000-foot view and execute. So understanding that process, you can use Excel and do a lot of stuff too. You don't have to spend that much. If you're knowledgeable, if you were an engineer and you understand how these processes work, it'd be easier for you. And if you're not an engineer, you can also always do a joint venture with somebody who's an engineer and, get the data and the concept and everything for them to help, understand that piece of it.
Cool. Let's see. Henry said, he goes, a lot of people got caught doing loans that might have been interest only, but borrowed at a mortgage loan. Even if they borrowed at 7, lend at 9, but had a negative cash flow. That kept a complicated. Okay, borrow at 7, lend at 9. I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that would be crazy. I mean, it's we always hypothecated. So we had an 18 yield on a note. I'm gonna lend it out probably at 12. I still have some type of arbitrage situation going. I would never, if I'm making 9, I would never borrow at 12. It just doesn't make sense. That's a negative arbitrage, and that it's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
I'm actually putting in money to make the payment. So again, if you're a lender and you want to lend on this, you want to be able to see third-party servicing records to see the frequency of the payment. Is it coming in the 1st of every month? Is it due on the 1st and coming in on the 20th of every month? So you can get an understanding of how the borrower is paying this note holder, right? So third-party servicing records, I wouldn't lend on anything unless I can see something from FCI, Madison, or Allied, or one of the services out there, third-party information that I can review and verify and understand the frequency of the payments, how the borrower is paying, how seasoned is the asset.
A couple more questions. When you hypothecate, do you sell it at par for the UPB or for your cost, or a different number?
It depends on what your exit strategy is and what you want to do. If you borrow $20,000 against a $51,000 UPB and someone's buying a performing note at a yield higher than your collateral assignment, you may sell it for $40,000 or $35,000. It all just depends on the person you're selling the asset to, what target yield they're looking for. That's going to basically make or break your sales price. Some people like to buy seconds at a 12 yield. If I'm paying my current investor 12 and I'm making 18, if I sell it, then I'm only going to be able to pay off the investor that I had, and basically not make any money on it. So I got to sell at a pretty much a lower yield in order to make more of a spread. So you'll figure it out. I mean, you have all sorts of ways you throw calculations into your Excel sheet. You can run different scenarios. If I borrow at this much, if I sell it, this is the percentage of the UPB. You could put formulas in there that will give you those different options and scenarios before you have a lender give you money on it. You want to run those numbers and have that set up. So the lender's asking you, what do you think you can sell this for? You want to let them know, hey, market yield for this type of asset that has this season go for X. I'm borrowing 20,000 or 30,000, whatever it is, from you at X yield. So if I sell it at market yield, even 20% below market yield, I'm showing you that I still have a viable exit strategy to pay you back and still be able to profit from it. So, you don't want to borrow, the whole UPB. You want to make sure you're just borrowing enough just to keep, maybe you're borrowing to pay legal fees or buy the assets or whatever you're trying to do. But you want to leave meat on the bone, so if the lender have to take the thing back because you don't perform, they can go out and get liquidity right away. And if you're a lender, you want to make sure that you're borrowing, on those same parameters. It's the same with real estate. Most lenders want to be not past, 55% or 65%, LTV. So it's the same thing you want to look at, when you're lending on notes.
Cool. Question here. Let's see here. Joel Yeat says, you made a comment about surrendering the note to the lender if you default. Is that common language that's put in the contract to protect the investor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if I was a lender, I wouldn't want to sign anything unless I have, some type of collateral to take back. So just like the mortgage is the document the borrower signed to pledge the property, the collateral assignment needs to have that language in there. If you don't perform, you have to be willing to, swap it out for another asset. That's an option. Hey, the first option in the waterfall would be to give you something that's comparable to what we have. And if not, then, if I can't afford to pay you, I have to let the note go over to you. So yeah, definitely you have to be willing to do that if you're going to go out and, play the collateral assignment game.
Cool. Brady has our collateral assignments filed like an AOM with the recorder's office.
Absolutely. You definitely can perfect the lien. You can record it in the local county. So if it's a refi, that clouds the title, and basically the lender have the option of getting paid, or you can have it term in and say, hey, if it's a refinance during this term, we set this thing up for 2 years. I want to be able to swap it to another note. You still want to be transparent with them because the title company is going to want to release from the collateral assignment anyway if there's a cloud in the title.
How long do you season a reperforming note before you consider hypothecation?
You can do it 6 months out. I usually try to say 6 months or more. A year is that. I would usually say 6 months or more because the borrower is back into the habit of paying now. They had 6 months of consecutive payments. And then you're able to show that the borrower is back into the habit of paying. Again, if they default or not, you're still responsible primarily to make that payment. But I would say at least 6 months or more.
Okay. Yeah, I would say not anything less than 6 months here. It's really not reperforming yet. Although there are funds that like to sell notes that have one payment, or like the investor has showed interest in doing a loan bond, they want to sell it as a reperformer. Eric asked a question. Fuquan talked about hypothecation specifically on performing paper. Is it also possible to do on NPNs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's some entities out there that do that, where they will lend on the non-performing notes. They will probably have you have a assignment of mortgage and escrow in their name. So if you don't execute, they can record right away and take over the asset. So I see that on high equity notes from the second position. People will lend up, to a certain percentage of the UPB. And if you don't perform, they'll report the assignment and take ownership of the note. So typically, you can go out and borrow against non-performers. Usually the assignment to the lender will be held in escrow with an escrow company or their attorney.
Or you can also have it as code named on the assignment as well with hypothecation, or depending on the lending amount and the amount of the trade. Sometimes it's a separate entity that's created with the borrower also co-named in the operating agreement. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I've actually sold some notes and created some lending. So I had one buyer who bought consistently from me. I had a note in Oregon where they live at, and basically they wanted to try to get the house. So it was a 300,000 UPB, and it was fully covered in equity. It was a second, and it was fully covered in equity. And I sold to them for 50 cents on the dollar, but they only had $80,000. So the other 70,000, I did a collateral assignment. Basically, or they did a collateral assignment, which they made me the lender, and they paid me 10%, and I gave them a 2-year term, basically. So, you can do that if you're a seller also. You can use that strategy where you're selling a note to someone, and then they're going to give you a collateral assignment on a non-performing note, and they're going to make you monthly payments until they figure out their exit strategy or they refinance it or whatever. So there's so many ways you can slice it. I mean, you can sell a note and finance it, like sell a carryback situation. Use that collateral assignment to the new note holder. That basically, if they default, you get to take the note back and sell it to someone else. So you can use it on both sides of the table.
Mm-hmm. I think we've got an engineering question here. Adding the call option adds some interesting pricing complexity. How are you determining FMV on the loan with a call option? As a follow-up, once you're hypothecated the note, what risk models are you using to manage your CFAR, and how are you testing scenarios that fall farther out on the curve?
Well, it's black and white. So I'm only going to borrow a certain percentage of the UPB.
Yeah.
Lender, I'm going to actually, prove to the lender, hey, here's the collateral. This is what the collateral is worth. This is what the market pricing is for this asset. If I was to sell a performing note, that's one of my exit strategies. And it has to be a backstory behind it also. Maybe the borrower is going to refinance soon. Maybe to share some information internally, with them through servicing notes or whatever, to show them that, this is going to be the exit strategy. As far as, risk scenarios, I'm outlining that when I go to borrow from the lender. Maybe I plan on selling this note. Maybe I have a joint venture that I have to pay back another lender. And this is the term, and I'm going to borrow against this note and sell it, whatever it is. You're going to go through those waterfall risk analysis with the lender. And they will only lend on a certain percentage of the note to give them a comfort zone. So as you can see, in most scenarios, the lender, they only want to lend on what they're comfortable in anyway. In any scenario, any lender should lend what they're comfortable. They may not want to give you 65% of the UPV. They might want to give you 30%. That may all they feel comfortable to lend on. To give you an example, I put some notes out to a lender that I know do collateral assignments on performing notes, and they only wanted to do stuff in California, and they only wanted to do 35% on a full equity loan. And I said, well, that doesn't work for me. But what I understood from that process is they felt safe doing that, knowing the market, and it was right in their backyard in California, that if they had to take it back, they would be into the note for a certain amount, and they can sell it on the open market right away and liquidate at a certain percentage. So as you, the lender, you're going to negotiate whatever terms and build whatever processes you need risk-wise to make you comfortable, and then you and the note holder should be able to come to some sort of agreement based on that. It's really the lender who's putting up the money, or the borrower being transparent and showing whatever processes. If this was to happen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to swap it to another note that's comparable, or it's going to pay you back your money, right? So I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't do this as a note holder unless you have a couple of different assets and you have some sort of liquidity. Sometimes you maybe want to do a collateral assignment to go and purchase a trade or do something. Maybe from that trade you purchase, you're going to liquidate some of those assets to recapitalize, or you have a pre-trade that you're going to get enough liquidity to bring in some more income to the company that you can offset on the collateral assignment. So I don't know if I made sense. I tried to answer the engineer question.
The biggest thing I think is look, if the asset has a real value of $50,000, I just put it, you're buying a first lien, you're probably not going to hypothecate more than 50, 60 cents on the dollar. It's not really have more than $25,000 on that deal. So you're not, and now if it's a reperforming note, you're probably not going to go above 80, 85%, just so you leave plenty of meat on the bone in case you do have to foreclose and take some stuff back like that. So it's not, look, does not overthink this. Fuquan made a very good point here. In the note business game, this is more of a pool business, and your risk is reduced when you're buying more deals. Now, if all you do is buy one deal, yeah, of course, you have to worry exactly about that one deal. But like Fuquan said, and I've done this before, you do enough deals, you're going to have something that goes south. Either the borrower trashes a place, you have an act of God or some weird thing. You got a forest fire in California, weird thing, foreclosures in a neighborhood drop the values down, stuff. This is why it's the beautiful thing about notes is you're leveraging risk across more assets you buy. So, some you'll hit home runs on, some singles and doubles. And what happens, something goes south, as Fuquan said, your lenders, your private investors, your JV partners just want to know that you have a solution in case things go south, right, Fuquan?
Yep, and you want to keep communication with them. If the borrower is used to paying on the first, and you see, they start paying on the 15th, you want to monitor that. Definitely the servicer, they're going to communicate and send phone calls and emails and letters to the borrower, whatever, to see what's happening. But you want to keep checking those servicer notes and keep the lender abreast of what's going on. Communication is so important. Even if you're making that payment, you want to let the lender know, the frequency of payments have changed over the last 90 days. The loan is still current, but the borrower is going through some type of, phase. The servicing notes are telling me this, so I need to move this to another asset that have better performance, or we can leave it here until a true default happens, and they snowball 60 days, and then we can move it. So this communication with the investor is very important.
Cool stuff. Well, Fuquan, I want to say thank you for getting up on your Saturday morning. I know you value your weekends with your kids. Your boys are rocking and rolling along there.
Yep.
Saw that stuff. Great stuff, man. We'll talk this week, but once again, Fuquan, from everybody, got a lot of people online. Like I said, Rudy, Jennifer Mertry, Jim Myers, Leah Griggs, a lot of people watching online. Allison Smith says great stuff, great nuggets, and Best way to reach out to you is pfrei.co. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's the educational hub, pfrei.co. I'll put the first slide back on again. If you're looking to buy notes, of course, we sell notes as well. You can go to nngcapitalfund.com.
Here you go.
And, you go there and basically you'll be able to go to our trade desk and see assets for sale. We have a couple of first mortgages now on the site for sale, and we have some seconds that we just released. So, we sell notes, we close notes.
That's right, baby. Good stuff. Fuquan, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, bud. See you later. All right, guys, we're going to take a 14-minute break. You're in for a treat. We've got another first-time Note Camp speaker coming on here, Kristen Gertz. You're going to love talking about how to structuring your owner finance for maximum profits when you look to sell it. So don't go anywhere. She'll be up in about 14 minutes. See you guys here shortly after a short little break.